Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this is my video about what's wrong with Doctor Strange in, not and, the Multiverse of Madness. This came out 6 months ago. I just finished it a day or two ago. I've got to say, the MCU is not doing good right now, especially the movies. I saw Shang-Chi, which was just incredibly boring. Thor, Love and Thunder, which was insufferably unfunny. And this movie right here, which is the worst, by far worst written of any of the MCU. It reminds me of movies that were made when there was a writer's strike. One of the Bond movies, one of the Bourne movies, there was the screenwriters went on strike. They had an early draft, but they weren't allowed to hire anyone else to do, a final draft. So they were just shooting from very early drafts. This absolutely, I was stunned throughout watching it. I was aghast at how bad the writing is. Now, it's Sam Raimi, who did the 3 Spider-Man movies, 20 years ago, which I recently rewatched and really, really hold up. Here's the weird thing. Yeah, I know there's some things in Spider-Man 3 that don't quite work. Everything looks better in the Spider-Man movies from 20 years ago. The effects look better. The stunts look better. The cinematography is better. The writing is better. The acting is better. Freaking literally everything. And it's the same director, but he's doing, what is this, Stage 4? Stage 4 Marvel, which is, they basically hire directors the same way they do on TV. A director on TV and a director in movies is a very different thing. A director in movies is the chief creative lead of the movie. Usually. With TV, the producers, the showrunners have written a story bible. They hired someone to define the look, and you're just meant to fit into the established world and look. But now they're doing that TV style direction in movies, and it does not work. So one of the things I remember when this movie came out, everyone was saying, this is so weird. You basically have to watch WandaVision to understand this. And I will say, you don't have to watch it to understand it. They do a little bit of backstory to get you caught up. But you do have to watch it to care. Because if you don't watch it, you're just watching a movie where, like, I remember this character from the Avengers movies, but she's completely different. Scarlet Witch is a mass murderer, but we're expected to forgive her because she stopped of her own accord. So one of the main things that just drove me nuts is it's not a Doctor Strange movie. It's a Scarlet Witch movie. I remember when Captain America Civil War came out, I was like, why is this called Captain America Civil War? It should just be The Avengers 3. So they made it Doctor Strange 2. And a whole bunch of weird shit comes out of that. Because first of all, the first Doctor Strange movie was 6 years ago. And it was a real movie. Like, I was just starting to get sick of the MCU back then. But I loved that. I saw it in the theaters like 3 or 4 times. And one of the things I kept thinking about is this is the first MCU movie that can kind of stand on its own. They do little references here and there, but you don't need to see any of the other MCU movies to fully enjoy Doctor Strange 1. This one, it doesn't matter how many movies you saw, you're not going to enjoy it. It's terrible. So it starts off and there's a good fight with Wong and Doctor Strange and America Chavez. They got a good actress for America Chavez, and then they just stopped giving any effort at all to this character. The character from the comics is a complete joke and makes no sense, and somehow they made her make less sense. You know what her superhero origin is? She was on an alien planet, and she got scared by a North American bee. She then opened up 2 portals, one that she went in, away from the bee, and one that she flung her lesbian moms into. Why don't you just fling the bee into it and stay? Just a little tiny portal for a bee. That bee shit is just freaking, that's just freaking dope smoking. I don't know, that is not from the comics at all. But again, the character is so poorly written in the comics, they probably said, anything we can do would be better than what the comics is. No. So Doctor Strange is, he's not a lead. He's not the lead. And he will disappear from the movie for multiple scenes at a time. And a lot of the stuff he does is merely exposition. Oh, and so much of this movie's exposition that at one point they literally just have the characters walking down a sidewalk and they randomly happen upon some discs that display your memories for the public. So in a movie that's, I'm not kidding, like 20% exposition, they got so tired of it, they're like, how do we do the flashback? How do we have them learn about each other's origins? Well, what if in this dimension there's a technology that shows people memories? Okay, sounds pretty dangerous. Sounds like something the government would regulate. No, it's just like out there in a mall. Okay, so you got to go in. It's like Total Recall. You got to sign all these waivers. No. The activation plates are just built into the sidewalk outside of the store. You just walk on it and then it shows your origin. Like, how bad is that writing? It is terrible. So the other thing that is, really bad is the magic. They did establish a world and some rules for the magic. But in this movie, magic is basically just generic energy blasts. There's one point where Doctor Strange starts pulling musical notes and making them real and then flinging them at Scarlet Witch. And at first you're like, oh, that's kind of visually inventive. But then you're like, okay, so does she have a vulnerability to music? What? And he flings like 60 notes and they do essentially nothing. And then he pulls out one like G flat or something like that. And then he throws it at her and it's like a freaking grenade. Like there's no consistency. Scarlet Witch is magnitudes more powerful than not only she has ever been, than both Wong. Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme right now. Although I don't know how he can retain that title after the embarrassing treatment he received, literally just being yeeted off of cliffs. So Scarlet Witch is essentially the main character, although they don't want to admit it. She's essentially a new character from previous iterations. She's a villain, but it's meant to be sympathetic because she lost her children in the TV show that I didn't see, but I'm told about that. So she's like, well, somewhere in the multiverse, I can have my family back. Now, her family wasn't just her children, but also a husband. I don't know why she's not trying to also get her husband back, but she just wants her kids. So she finds an alternate universe where the family, except for the husband, is still together. Mom and 2 kids. And then she decides to steal the kids. I think she wants to kill the mom, and then the kids will be hers. Except for this is the multiverse. There are infinity -1 alternate timelines. You just find a timeline where the mom just died of coronavirus, and you just go to that timeline. And it's not like there's only going to be like one timeline where that happened. There's literally going to be thousands of timelines where Scarlet Witch died and her kids are orphans. They do try to establish lore with one thing, which is dream walking, where you can go control yourself in another dimension, which is a huge no-no for some reason. And we do get a really interesting visual of Doctor Strange animating his corpse in another dimension. And the corpse has like a cape of demons, which is actually pretty cool. But again, then he just does generic force blast magic and there's no stakes to anything. And of course, you got the trash MCU humor popping up to deflate every dramatic moment. Let's not even get into the love interest. Do you remember Christine? No? Why would you? She was in like 10 minutes of the first movie that came out 6 years ago. Turns out that Christine, just like Jane Foster in Thor Love and Thunder, even though we haven't mentioned her or seen her in more than half a decade, she's actually the love of Doctor Strange's life. And he misses her so much, and she's gotten remarried while he's been busy saving the universe. So they go to another dimension and he meets Christine, and there's nothing there. Speaking of, what the fuck is going on with Doctor Strange's wig? What in the name of Jerry Lewis is going on? It's like an inch lower than it was in the first movie, and it is not a very convincing wig. And then we get to the Illuminati, which was the thing that was so fascinating to people, and people would go just to see the Illuminati, and it freaking sucks. It is terrible. The male members are just easily murked, like essentially instantly. The smartest man in the universe stands 6 feet away from a witch who he is completely vulnerable to. He gets turned into spaghetti. Black Bolt gets taken out like a complete chump. Captain Carter and I don't know what her name was in this. Was she Captain Marvel in this one? They, of course, last much longer, but then still get taken out like chumps. There was a lot of, why do you know that? Did you read the script? At one point, they get sent back to, the main timeline. And then the Darkhold, which is this very dangerous book, which is in all the different dimensions, it disappears. And then Doctor Strange goes, she must have also made it disappear in all the other timelines of the multiverse. How do you know that? Did you read the script and it said that? Because she killed all of the Illuminati except for Mordo. She tried to kill you a bunch of times. She basically tried to kill herself in another dimension. She killed several of the people at Kamartaj. Although that one was a little weird because when I saw the scene, I swore she killed everyone. And then at the end, they seem to all be alive. Because I was like, is this from a different timeline? Also, this timeline shit, it's got to go away. They've got to do something to make this not an issue anymore. Because nothing has any stakes. If something messed up, you just use time travel, you go fix it. If something disappears in this timeline, you just go grab it from another timeline. There were zero stakes at all in this entire movie. And then they do the end credit sequences, which are just so bad. It looks like they just filmed them all in like 30 minutes. Like he's walking down the street and he like collapses and then he's got like a third eye. And then they cut back and he's still out there, but he's like relaxed now because he was screaming like he was having a freaking aneurysm or something like that. And then he meets, it's Charlize Theron and she's Clea and she says, come with me unless you're scared. And he's like, okay. The entire movie was you having massive problems because you were just blindly following anyone to any dimension. Also, you made a huge deal about only America Chavez could... Okay, whatever. Nothing matters. Bye.